started at 3750 page. And we went up.
You were making money with Carol Burnett.
Yeah,
Great.
Lighting from Mag is fantastic.
Let me ask you, the people in the back row, if at any point you can't hear our people, give me a signal like this so I can make them go close. You're going to get real close.
That was issue number 73.
Yeah. Guys, you have to get real close to these microphones.
Okay, all right, got it.
Remember the Milton Berle joke? You're too close to the microphone, how far should I be? You got a car? Anyway. All right. Let's go back here. Harvey Kurtzman founded, created Mad, did the first 24 issues as comic book. It got turned into a magazine. He had this wonderful staff, Wally Wood, John Severin, Jack Davis, Will Elder, nobody better. They did a wonderful historic magazine, comic book. The magazine, switched to a magazine. They did a couple of issues. The magazine wasn't coming out very regularly. Kurtzman had deadline problems. Yeah. Luckily. Anyway, Mr. Kurtzman and Mr. Gaines, the publisher Bill Gaines, quarreled over money. Suddenly, Harvey was gone. He took with him Will Elder. He took with him Jack Davis. He took with him. He tried to keep taking Wally Wood. Wood vacillated and finally decided to stay with Mad. But all of a sudden, there was no staff. Al Feldstein had been editing comics for Bill Gaines. He'd created a little thing called Tales from the Crypt. This is the man who wrote and edited the science fiction books, Weird Science and Weird Fantasy, and crime books, crime suspense stories and such. Those books had been, were defunct thanks largely to comic book censorship in the form of the Comics Code and the pressure groups. So Mr. Feldstein was out of work. One day he comes back, he's at the train station. He gets off his train, he's been in New York trying to drum up new accounts, new work. He's more or less unemployed. He gets off the train station and Bill Gaines is standing there. And Bill Gaines says, Harvey's left, I'd like you to come back.
Well, that's not exactly
all right.
He said, I fired Harvey.
All right.
And the story, if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Harvey was a genius, and Harvey had a tremendous amount of talent. But he was also very ambitious, and he hated the comics. When Bill Gaines' distributor went bankrupt, Bill was faced with going bankrupt himself. And Harvey said to Bill, look, you still got Mad. Get rid of everybody else and put the money up that you owe the printers via the fact that the distributor went bankrupt and was not giving him his advances and what he owed him and everything like that. And so he talked to Bill and his mother and his sister into paying all the bills that were due for printing junk like Techno-Fiction and Aces High and whatever the hell else we were doing. And I was out on the street and Harvey was doing Mad. Hugh Hefner comes with a carrot. Come and do a sister magazine to Playboy called Trump. Or I don't know whether he named it or whether Harvey did. But come and do this magazine for me. And Harvey, I don't think, had the guts to go to Bill and say, after you put up all the money, I'm walking out. So he forced Bill to fire him. And he said, I want 51% of the magazine and control. And Harvey and Bill called up his old friend, Lyle Stewart, who was his business manager, and had let him go when he let me go, and said, Harvey's here. He wants 51% of the magazine. And Lyle says, is he near a window? And Bill says, yeah. He says, throw him out. And Bill says, what about me? I just put up all this money to keep it going. Now, what am I going to do? And Lyle Stewart, who never liked him, and I never liked him, said, get Feldstein back. He used to do Panic, and I never could tell the difference between Mad and Panic.
So you agree? So now the story is so the story is now that Gaines said to you, I don't know if we'll do Mad, but we'll do something. I want to be back in business with you. And you said, let's do Mad.
Absolutely, right? Because I'm walking around with a portfolio, and in it is a dummy for a magazine that I'm trying to sell, which is going to be like a comedy showcase before they had them on TV, with all the off-the-wall humorists like Lenny Bruce and Barbara Ray and Nicholson Day and like that. I wanted to do this Comedy Showcase magazine. And he offered me Mad there. I saw right away that I could do it with Mad.
Okay, so you next day you're at work in the office, editing Mad, and you assemble your entire staff, which consisted of
John Putnam and Wally Wood.
And what did you do? You had no staff. You had no writers. You had no artists.
I started to write it myself, and I'm not very funny.
Okay.
But I was lucky because walked indoors, people didn't know what had happened, this chaos that was going on. And for an atheist to say this, thank God, these guys walked into the door and they were just these talents. Don Martin, Grave Bird, a writer named Frank Jacobs, who was my first freelance writer. And you know, I was grabbing them like a sponge and sucking them into this fold because I needed everybody. And I knew that I couldn't write it. And while he was doing some artwork, and Harvey had left some stuff, and I was using that, but I had to generate new stuff. I was very lucky. I really was. And as I said, thank God.
There was a kid who walked in the door early on who was doing production art for DC Comics and drawing occasionally for them. He brought his samples to you, and you guys looked at him and said, maybe he could do caricatures.
Well, yeah. Well, that was a little while later when we were really kind of jumping along. I feel like I'm hogging.
No, we'll get to them. We're going sequentially.
Don't worry about me. I was 12 years old, so please.
Bill Gaines and I used to go to the Dodger games together on roller derby and everything like that. Guy walks in named Morton. Shows us some hillbilly stuff. I don't know, some other junk things doing for DC. I had just landed Bob and Ray's stuff. I had gone to Bob and Ray and said, I'm trying to do this comedy showcase with Mad, and can I have some of your old stuff to illustrate into articles for Mad? And he said, sure, and he gave me a box. They gave me a box of stuff. And Mort's there, and Bill says, if the Dodgers win, hire him. So I said to Mort, did you ever do caricatures? And he said, no. I said, okay, look, I got this Bob and Ray script, I just put it into production. Take these two 8x10s with Ray Elliott and Bob Doolin, whatever his name is, and
Bob Elliott and Ray Gould.
Bob
Elliott and Ray Gould.
I'm with Doolin. Okay. And let me see what you can do in the way of caricatures. And that was the first caricatures that Mort Drucker ever did, and he turned in, I think, to America's greatest.
Amazing. You also got another bonus out of your Bob and Ray Association. You got one of your best writers.
Yeah, right. I'm looking through this stuff, and a lot of it's being written by a guy named Tom Koch, whatever you pronounce it, who lives out in Indiana. And I called him up, and he said, hey, I see where you wrote this Bob and Ray stuff. Yeah, I said, I'm adopting it, but how'd you like to write for me? And he said, sure. And he turned into one of my most prolific and dependable writers.
He wrote the funniest single piece in that magazine called 43-Man Squamish. It spits soda through your nose funny. Hysterically funny. If you get a chance to look it over, it's 43-Man Squamish. He's a very funny man.
Now, I hate to be that editor, but it's 53 minutes.
48. 51. Okay.
Which is funnier? All right, now, sequentially here, the next one who got involved with Mad was Al Jaffe. Al, would you tell us the story of how you got involved with Mad?